You think you know yourself. You walk through life with a name, a resume, a collection of memories you've curated like a museum exhibit. You've edited out the shame, buried the rage, polished the narrative until it's tolerable. You call that person you. But there's something else living underneath that mask. A presence that doesn't speak in words, but moves in urges, instincts, and impulses. It knows what you want even when you deny it. It remembers the things you pretend to forget. And it's watching. Always watching. Your shadow self. You were taught to be good, polite, respectable, to control your anger, suppress your envy, smile when you want to scream, and so, over time, everything unacceptable, every dark thought, every forbidden desire, was exiled to the basement of your psyche. But here's the part they never told you. You didn't kill those parts of yourself. You just made them smarter. The shadow doesn't disappear. It adapts. It learns. While your conscious mind plays checkers, the shadow plays chess. It becomes the master of camouflage, manipulating your emotions from the dark, whispering suggestions through intuition, hunger, sarcasm, dreams. And, worst of all, you think those thoughts are your own. Every time you say, "I don't know why I did that," the shadow smiles. Because it does. You convince yourself you're driven by purpose, logic, morality. But behind your polished intentions, there's a cunning architect crafting every self-sabotage, every toxic relationship you can't quit, every dream you're too afraid to pursue. That's not a flaw in your personality. That's your shadow, outplaying you. Most people never face it. They don't want to. It's easier to believe you're a victim of circumstance than admit you're the saboteur behind the curtain. It's easier to blame the world than confront the dark genius inside you. Because once you acknowledge it, you can't unsee it. And from that moment on, you're responsible for every lie you've told yourself. You're not who you think you are. You're a performance. A carefully rehearsed, socially acceptable version of yourself that's been trained to survive the expectations of the world. But the real you, the raw, chaotic, brutally honest self, lives in the shadow. And unlike your curated self, the shadow is fearless. It doesn't care about approval. It doesn't care about being liked. It wants what it wants, and it knows exactly how to get it. Sometimes it takes over when you're tired, or triggered, or just too numb to resist. You say things you didn't mean to say. You hurt people you love. You chase highs you know will destroy you. And later, when you come back to yourself, you feel confused, ashamed, alien in your own skin. That wasn't you, you tell yourself. But it was. It was the part of you that doesn't play by your rules. The part that doesn't care about your reputation or your goals or your perfectly crafted persona. It only cares about truth. Raw, unfiltered, ugly truth. And the truth is, you're not as moral, as pure, as good as you pretend to be. No one is. We are all haunted by the versions of ourselves we weren't allowed to become. The rage we swallowed, the arrogance we buried, the primal instincts we disguised as virtues. And the longer we ignore them, the more power they gain. The shadow doesn't fade when you repress it. It sharpens. It studies you. It waits. And eventually, it takes the wheel when you least expect it. That's why you find yourself repeating the same destructive patterns, chasing the same toxic validation, hurting the same parts of yourself over and over. The shadow's not trying to ruin you. It's trying to wake you up. It's trying to show you the parts of yourself you need to integrate to become whole. But integration is war. It means admitting you're not always the victim, that sometimes you were the one who lied, the one who manipulated, the one who betrayed. And that kind of self-honesty, it burns, because it destroys the fantasy of who you thought you were. Most people run from that fire. They escape into distractions, drugs, social media, meaningless relationships, spiritual bypassing, fake positivity, anything to avoid the confrontation, anything to keep the illusion intact. But you, if you're still here, still watching, then maybe, just maybe, you're ready to meet the one part of yourself that never lies. The shadow is not your enemy. It's your mirror. And it's far more intelligent than you, not because it's evil, but because it's honest. It sees what you refuse to see. It remembers what you pretend to forget. It understands your fears better than any therapist ever could, and it's been trying to protect you this whole time, in the only language it knows, sabotage. Because sabotage is how the shadow screams. When your conscious self ignores the truth, the shadow burns your life down until you finally pay attention. Not out of cruelty, but necessity. Because if you won't change willingly, you'll be dragged into change through destruction. You can't outthink it. You can't outrun it. The only way out is through. Face it. Understand it. Integrate it. Because until you do, the most dangerous enemy you'll ever meet is the one hiding behind your own eyes. You were taught to control yourself, but never taught to understand yourself. So you built a cage, painted it gold, called it discipline, and wondered why the animal inside kept growling. You think freedom is doing whatever you want, but the truth is, you don't even know what you want. Not really, because the part of you that knows, the shadow, has been locked away for years, maybe decades. And here's the tragedy. The longer you suppress it, the more unconscious it becomes. And the more unconscious it becomes, the more it controls you without you even realizing it. That's why you fall for the same people, make the same mistakes, sabotage every time you get close to success. It's not because you're weak. It's because you're following a script written by a part of you that doesn't trust the surface version of you to survive. And maybe it's right. Because the shadow isn't just your darkness. It's your raw intelligence. It sees patterns. It recognizes danger. It knows your true desires. It contains the boldness, the instinct, the intensity you lost when you learned to play nice. It knows how to hunt, how to fight, how to protect. You exiled it because it made people uncomfortable. But in the process, you amputated the strongest part of your psyche. The shadow holds your power. Not the fake, performative kind. Not the kind that comes from money or status or followers. Real power. The kind that comes from being whole. From knowing who you are at your worst and still choosing to stand tall. From not being afraid of your own darkness. Because here's the paradox no one tells you. The only way to become truly good is to be capable of being bad. And to choose not to. Until then, your virtue is a performance, a mask. You're not moral, you're just afraid. Afraid of the chaos inside you. Afraid of your own potential. because power without self-awareness becomes destruction. But when you confront the shadow, when you learn to speak its language, to listen without judgment, something changes. You stop being a puppet. You stop living on autopilot. You stop blaming the world for wounds you never took the time to understand. And then the real work begins. Because the shadow doesn't just contain rage, lust, greed, it also contains your genius, your creativity, your intuition, your charisma, your wildness, your ability to feel deeply, speak truthfully, and move through the world with presence. All of it is buried beneath shame. And shame is the cage that keeps your real self asleep. The people who've truly changed the world, artists, revolutionaries, saints, outlaws, they didn't become who they were by avoiding the shadow. They became who they were by dancing with it, by learning from it, by integrating it into something higher. Carl Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." He didn't mean to glorify the dark. He meant that you can't heal what you won't face. You can't change what you refuse to name. And you can't become whole by amputating half your soul. This is why therapy, journaling, solitude, dreams, these aren't just self-help tools. They're sacred rituals of excavation, maps to the underworld of your mind. And if you follow them with courage, they will take you to the exact place you fear the most. Yourself. Not the curated version, not the hero you pretend to be. The animal, the ghost, the abandoned child, the cold strategist, the part of you that watches the world burn and doesn't flinch. And when you finally meet it, not with judgment, but with presence, it shifts. The shadow stops being a monster. It becomes an ally. It gives you back your fire, your edge, your ability to walk into the storm and not blink. And that is where your freedom lives. Not in controlling everything. Not in being liked. Not in pretending to be perfect. But in being real. Whole. Human. Because a human being who has made peace with their darkness is unstoppable. They don't seek approval because they've already faced rejection. They don't fear betrayal because they've already betrayed themselves and survived. They don't cling to ego because they've watched their identity crumble and still found meaning. And that kind of person, grounded, present, unshakably honest, is dangerous in the best possible way. Not because they harm others, but because they can't be manipulated. Because they know exactly who they are and what they're capable of. The world doesn't need more good people. It needs integrated people. People who can hold both the light and the dark without splitting. People who can sit with pain without numbing it, who can speak truth without sanitizing it, who can live with fire in their hearts without burning others to ash. The shadow is not here to destroy you. It's here to complete you, but only if you have the courage to look into the abyss and not look away. Because the scariest thing you'll ever discover is not the darkness in the world. It's the darkness in yourself. And once you've seen it, once you've stood face to face with your own chaos and chosen not to run, nothing can break you again. Because you've already walked through hell, and you didn't just survive. You came back with your soul on fire, So don't be afraid of the shadow. Be afraid of what happens when you ignore it. Because the longer you pretend it's not there, the more control it has over your life. But when you stop running, when you turn to face it with open eyes, you'll hear a voice in the dark say, "I've been waiting for you." And for the first time, you'll feel whole. The parts of yourself you feared the most were never your enemy. They were your teachers. And now, class is in session. Face the shadow, or be ruled by it. The choice has always been yours. So choose wisely. And if this truth burns something inside you, good. Let it. Because only fire can reveal the shape of what's been buried. This is Philospiral. Now you know.